The first thing we're talking about is physical defense.
Oh.
So that is stuff like...
Jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Karate?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Judo?
Welcome back to a Backpacking Basics episode. It has been a long time since we've done a Backpacking Basics episode.
Yeah, it worked out well. It got us through the winter.
It did get us through the winter. So today's topic is going to be something that people always ask us about and talk about, and that's dealing with insects while you're out there camping.
Yep.
I think that's like a big deal for people who are just getting into backpacking, and it certainly can be dependent on like time of year and where you're going and stuff like that, but there are like a lot of strategies you can employ to deal with bugs and have it so it doesn't affect the enjoyment you get out of being out there.
Yeah.
Because when you're out there, you don't want to worry about things, and if you can at least get the insects under control, you'll probably have a better time.
Yep, you sure will.
We're going to break this up into a couple different topics and kind of how you can attack insect defense differently. So the first thing we're talking about is physical defense.
Oh.
So that is stuff like...
Jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Karate?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Judo?
No, we're talking anything that puts a physical barrier between you and the insects. So things like using head bug nets. Oh yeah, you have one, that's right.
Yeah.
Certainly if you're a hammock camper, use a bug net on your hammock. Another thing kind of specific to hammock camping is if you are going somewhere and there are mosquitoes and you have a single layer hammock, you need to take some precautions there. We've had experiences with single layer hammocks in the summer, and mosquitoes can bite straight through them.
Yep.
So if you're going out in the summer where there's mosquitoes and you're hammock camping, if you don't have a double layer hammock, consider bringing like a sheet or something and sleeping on top of that. We made that mistake once, and never again will we ever do that.
Yeah.
Because they can bite through a single layer. You want to talk about clothes?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the more you cover up your skin, obviously, the less the mosquitoes and other bugs, black flies, horse flies, are going to be able to get to you. So much outdoor clothing out there now is advertised as bug-proof. Very common, like long sleeve shirts. These hiking shirts, these nylon hiking shirts. Most of them out there now are bug proof. And then, some type of long pants, also nylon long pants, like all pretty much hiking pants, or a lot of them that I've seen are also bug proof. And sometimes you just have to cover up. I know I've been to northern Canada, northern Ontario during the peak of black fly seasons, and no amount of bug spray can stop that. So you're just wearing long sleeves and a head net, and you just deal with it, and it helps.
Most people don't realize like mosquitoes can bite through thin clothing, so you need to take that into account. But like he said, you're going to be places in certain times of the year where no amount of anything will deal with the bugs. Check out David Gray's latest video.
When he's in Wyoming.
He's in Wyoming, and the bugs cut his trip short. And it was so bad, and they had bug nets and everything. But just know, sometimes you just got to up the game and get some clothes. But definitely check out. They have insect-proof clothing, head nets, stuff like that.
Yep.
Now, probably the most effective defense is chemical defense. And we're talking things like Permethrin, like DEET, like Picardin. Now, these products generally work against three kinds of bugs: flies, ticks, and mosquitoes. And when you're out backpacking, that's probably the only ones you're going to need to be worried about. You're out in nature, there's tons of insects, you're not going to get a handle on all of them, but you want to protect yourself against ticks, especially mosquitoes and black flies. So something we've been doing new this year is we've been doing a lot with Permethrin. Now, there's a lot of videos on Permethrin. Permethrin is generally used against ticks, but it works against other bugs too. The cool thing about Permethrin is it will chemically bond to your clothing. So what we've been doing, what we did this year is we sprayed down everything with Permethrin. Hammocks, clothes,
shoes, gaiters,
backpacks,
hats,
literally everything that's exposed, we like soaked down with permethrin. And then what you want to do with permethrin is, if you do that, you need to let it dry before you touch it or do anything. Permethrin is like a serious chemical, you know, just because it comes from plants. Like, it is a serious like agricultural insecticide, so just be careful with it. You can soak stuff in it. We've never done it. No reason we haven't. That's really effective. There are some, Tim Watson has a good video on soaking stuff in permethrin. But definitely we really like permethrin. This is the first year we're like really using it. And I've noticed a really big difference.
Yeah, just especially on the East Coast, you got to do everything you can to keep those ticks away from you.
Ticks are, and the density of ticks with Lyme disease in the East Coast is the worst. So if you're definitely in the Northeast, especially those AT hikers, use permethrin. But it is generally better against ticks, but it works against all of them. But it's great because you can chemically bond this to fabrics. Now, it doesn't last forever, and it'll only last a couple washes and only, I think, 4 to 5 weeks. So you got to kind of do it. But we've been pretty religious with hosing down our stuff with permethrin this year, and it's worked really well.
Speaking of chemicals, let's talk about DEET for a little bit.
Oh, DEET's the best.
Yeah, DEET. You have to be careful with DEET, especially when you're talking gear, backpacking gear, because DEET can actually do some pretty serious damage to gear, especially like plastics.
Yeah, it will dissolve plastics at higher percentages.
Yeah, so you know, whatever DEET content you want to use, go for it. Just know the higher the DEET content, the higher a chance of damaging gear. So you have to
I think 40% you're okay.
Yeah, so you do need to be careful with it. I think DEET's pretty effective against mosquitoes.
DEET is, so how DEET works is it kind of like clogs the noses of the mosquitoes so they can't sniff you out. Like, DEET's what the military uses. DEET is the most effective thing for mosquitoes. Yep. It's just a pretty like serious chemical.
Yeah.
I mean, it melts plastic, so like you can imagine putting it on your skin all the time probably isn't great. Now we use it anyway because it is that effective.
Yeah, and when it comes to making or breaking a trip, we're gonna take the DEET every time.
Oh, we're taking the DEET every time.
I've tried some of like the natural bug repellents, and you know, some of it works, but it's not nearly as effective as some good old-fashioned DEET.
Yeah, like citronella has been shown to work. Other things along those lines have been shown to work, but nothing as effective as DEET and permethrin. So that is kind of what we recommend. Just be careful with them because they are legitimate chemicals. You don't necessarily want them on your skin all the time or like in your eyes or mouth. So just be careful with it, but these are the most effective. There are other things that don't really fall in the realm of backpacking, like something called a thermocell, which is really effective. David Gray, they tried to use it on the last trip, but there were just too many mosquitoes. It's just really heavy. It's like a pound, and it's like a electronic contraption. So there are other things you can go if you want to go a little bit heavier. But we're gonna recommend a good permethrin soak or spray down of all your gear. And then when you go out into the woods, use some DEET, and you can also get skin lotions that have permethrin in it too. So if you're going somewhere where there's just ticks everywhere, I would consider a permethrin lotion as well.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the realm of chemical defense. An often underappreciated way to deal with insects is something we're gonna call campsite defense.
Okay.
And that's just being smart with
where you camp,
where you're camping, when you're camping,
time of the year, everything
like that. So the obvious thing that most people know is you do not want to camp around stagnant pools of water. And I'm not talking like necessarily like ponds or lakes. I am, but even if you go out backpacking after heavy rain and like little puddles form in the trail, mosquitoes breed in there. So if you're going backpacking right after it's rained a lot, like the week before you go, the bugs are going to be worse. You need to avoid stagnant pools of water. That's the easiest thing to do. You want to, it kind of can suck, but if you've got more wind where you're camping, you're going to have less bugs.
Yep.
If you're camping up higher, you're going to have less bugs. So like in Ohio, all the backpacking we do is like ridge down to water, up into ridge, down to water. That seems to be what we do. But up on the ridges is much better.
Yeah, so I mean, it might be more advantageous, especially like during peak bug season, that maybe you don't camp next to water. Maybe you haul your water up a little bit.
That's what we do.
Yeah, you haul your water up to a top where you can get a little bit more exposed to the wind, away from the water. It helps certain times of the year, obviously.
And then another thing that really does help is just having a big fire, having a smoky fire.
Smoky fire.
That'll keep the bugs away. But taking care of those, campsite factors is going to be way more effective than trying to rely on something like this. If you can just go somewhere where there aren't any bugs, then you don't have to worry about this stuff. So that's what we do. We do not... The only water source we will camp next to is a fast-running water source. Other than that, we avoid water sources in general.
I do not want to camp near ponds.
Yeah, especially for like 6 months out of the year, you just don't want to be there. So if you take into consideration those things, you'll have a lot less bugs around you while you're at camp, and that's when they're the most annoying. If you're hiking and you're moving, they're annoying, but at least you're moving. But if you're just sitting around camp and they're just feasting on you, that sucks.
Yeah, nothing's worse than having to get into camp and then immediately go in your hammock or your tent to get away from the bugs. That's just the worst.
So we've talked a lot about how to protect yourself from insects while you're backpacking, but at some point you just have to understand that you're going out into the woods and there are bugs out there.
Yep.
You have to accept that that's part of the experience, and just knowing that and know that you got to pick your battles. You only can really wage war against the mosquitoes, the ticks, and the flies. There's tons of other bugs out there, spiders, whatever. It's just part of nature. It's part of the experience. Bite the bullet. Just get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, it's the, beginning of summer, it's like 80 degrees out, and sometimes you just gotta suck it up and you gotta walk with long sleeves and long pants, and it's hot and it's uncomfortable, but at least you're not getting ravaged by mosquitoes.
Yeah, so you gotta pick your battles. So do what you can. In summary, deal with it physically, deal with it chemically, and be smart about where you camp. And if you do all that stuff, you're gonna definitely decrease the amount of bugs that are annoying you.
Yeah.
But know that, like we talked today, there's things you can do to make the experience better, but you're in the woods. That's just part of the experience. So kind of change your mindset a little bit, I guess. But that's it for this episode of Backpacking Basics. It's good to be back. We haven't shot one of these in a while.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Yeah, put your best bug defenses in the comments.
Yeah, we'd like to hear other remedies for sure.
Yep.
But that's it for today. Thank you all for watching, and we will catch everyone on the next episode of Backpacking Basics.
See ya.
Whenever that is.